The Broncos return home to face the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and company coming to Empower Field at Mile High, and we are getting you ready for kickoff. Hello, welcome into the studio. I'm Phil Milani alongside Sidney Jones and Eric Dalala. Guys, we all know what this game means to Broncos country. Anytime the Chiefs come to town, it's a big deal. But 13 consecutive losses, Sidney. What do you think a win would mean this week for the Broncos?
Yeah, well, Phil, you said it. I mean, the Broncos have lost 13 straight to the Chiefs. So I just think a win would be huge to break that, or snap that streak. Even if there's not a lot, to bank on for the rest of the season here at this point in the season, I think it would mean a lot for the next season, heading into next season, not having that on their back, knowing that they have a clean slate going into those two Chiefs games next season. So I think that would be huge. But I think just a win in general would mean a lot for this team. At this point in the season, the guys, they're playing for pride. They're playing for, their teammates, the guy next to them, to put some good tape out there. So, getting a win over Patrick Mahomes and this Chiefs team, that's really good, but I think would be big.
Yeah, I mean, this Broncos team has lost 8 out of 9. I think a win in general would help morale around the facility here a little bit. But Eric, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he's never lost to the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't done a lot of losing in general, Phil. Never lost an AFC West road game, never lost to the Broncos. The Broncos have actually played him better than a lot of AFC West teams, but just haven't found a way to get over that hump quite yet. And if they're able to do that, I think it does signify to them, hey, we can beat these guys. And obviously there's a difference between doing it once in 1 week and being a consistently good football team. But you've got to take little steps here and there. And so it would signify that you've got the talent, you've got the capability to go toe-to-toe with these guys. And certainly, Phil, if Russell Wilson is able to play well and kind of match Patrick Mahomes, that would be a really good sign showing that you have the quarterback play you need to beat these guys. But just in general, they need division wins. 12 of their last 13 division games have been losses. I mean, they just have not been very successful in the AFC West. So you've got to start somewhere. Why not at home against the Chiefs?
6 straight losses against the division opponents. And yeah, that was sort of the idea when you brought Russell Wilson to Denver, is like, all right, now you've got a quarterback to go toe-to-toe with some of these elite passers around the league. And that just hasn't been the case so far for this Broncos team. But a win this week would go a long way around here. Here's what Russell Wilson had to say about the losing streak to the Chiefs.
This game of football is not necessarily all about the past. It's about the present. That's the great thing about the game. What can we do to go against a really good football team and go get a win at home for our fans and for our team? And it definitely matters to us, So we got to set the tone early and often. It's a 4-quarter game. We got to play all 4 quarters of it.
Let's talk now about the weapons that Russell Wilson has going into this contest. It's Jerry Jeudy and a lot of unproven guys out there with Russ. But one of the more promising young guys on this Broncos offense is Greg Dulcich. Do you think, Sid, that he's got the brightest future of any of these young guys on the offensive side?
Yeah, I think so, Phil. I think, first, it's so awful to see the amount of injuries this offense has suffered, because this offense does have a lot of talent. This team has a lot of talent. But, looking at some of the younger guys on the roster, I do think Greg Dulcich is a very promising player. We saw last week in Baltimore, he led the team in receiving yards, really liked what he did out there. Hoping to see more of that. Coach Hackett said after the game on Sunday that they thought they had an advantage with him, being a receiver, playing more in the slot receiver role. So maybe we're gonna see more of that this weekend. I really liked him in that role, and kind of what we talked about this whole season. Has a rare combination of just his size and his speed that makes him really unique, gives him a unique skill set. So yeah, I'm excited about him.
He comes in with a good mentality too. Yeah. I think, guys, like, he's got this sort of chip on his shoulder from being a walk-on at UCLA. He obviously has tremendous hair, which we're all big fans of that. But Eric, he seems like he has an opportunity, if he continues on this trajectory, to be maybe a premier tight end in this league.
Yeah, and I think this is the way the game is going right now with these tight ends that you can split out wide, that can be a mismatch against a linebacker. They're too fast for them, too big for a corner. This is what the Broncos have been looking for. They look for it in Noah Fant. They look for it in Albert O. It seems like maybe they found it in Greg Dulcich. He leads all rookie tight ends in receiving yards, despite having missed a good chunk of the season. And I think as you look at him, he's able to do a lot of different things. He can catch routes short and break tackles to get first downs. He can catch the ball over his shoulder down the field. He's good making contested catches in the seam. So I think the fact that he can do so many different things opens up this offense a little bit, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him become a focal point moving forward.
Nathaniel Hackett was asked, where has Greg Dulcich improved the most earlier this week?
I think originally we wanted to kind of limit it for him and make sure that he understood exactly what he was doing at one certain position. But now we've amped up the personnels. We've motioned him. We've put him in different spots, lined him up at the receiver. So I think that just the extension of what he can do has really grown for him.
Continuing with the tight end talk, one of the best in the NFL, maybe the best of all time, is coming to town this week in Travis Kelce. Sydney, do you think that the Broncos might use Pat Surtain to match up against him?
Yeah, Phil, maybe. I know Coach Hackett, he talked about it a little bit this week. They're going to try and mix things up, and whether that's Pat Surtain covering him or someone else, I think it's going to be a really tough challenge to try and contain him. Like you mentioned, he's one of the best to ever do it. But, looking back at last week, I thought our defense did a really good job at containing Mark Andrews, another top receiving tight end in this league. But Travis Kelce, he's on another level. Him and Patrick Mahomes just have such a connection when they're out there. They're on the same wavelength. So whoever is covering him needs to know where he's at all times.
It does seem like Mahomes has this ability to just put the ball somewhere where only Kelce can get it. And he always catches the ball. He's been sort of a thorn in the Broncos' side for a long time here, year after year, making those types of plays where it's third and long. Boom, Kelce somehow makes some magic happen. You think it makes sense to put Surtain on him?
I think in some situations, but I do think with as creative a play caller as Andy Reid is and how good he is as an offensive mind, you've got to mix it up. Like Sydney said, you can't just have Surtain on him at all times because they'll find another way to beat you. And listen, the Broncos have had some games where Kelce's beaten him himself, and then they've had some games where they've held him in check, and the Chiefs have still found a way to win. I do think with the injuries the Chiefs are dealing with right now at the wide receiver position, you've got to make Kelce your number one priority. And I think there are times when Surtain is the best option. But if K'Wan Williams can come back, I think that's a big help for the Broncos because he's a physical player too. He's shown his ability to guard tight ends at times this season. So he could be part of it as well. But yeah, Phil, whether it's third down in the red zone, Kelce's always a problem.
Yeah, and what makes it hard is if you play zone against him, he knows how to find those open pockets there where he just creates separation. And then if you play man on him, then that gives Mahomes maybe the opportunity to take off and start running and using his legs. So really a difficult task for this Broncos defense this week. Here's Broncos defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero and also Pat Surtain talking about what the heck do you do with Travis Kelce?
He's crafty, deceptively athletic, hard to tackle after the catch. Probably the best separator at any position, receiver, tight end in the league. He's a hell of a player.
I'm comfortable wherever the coach feels like they want me at schematically. I ain't going to make my judgment on that, of course, because obviously their game plan is what's set in stone, so I ain't going to get too much into that.
Time to wrap up with some final thoughts now. Sydney, let's start with you.
Phil, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but going up against this Chiefs team, we know how explosive their offense is. This Broncos offense needs to find a way to put up some points and find the end zone. So really, I'm just hoping to see this offense maybe click this week. I know we've been saying it week in and week out, but you never know. Maybe this week's the week.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to hold this Chiefs team to 10 points. So going to definitely have to score some points this weekend to keep up. Eric, what about you?
I'm really excited to see Ejiro Evero's defense go up against this Chiefs offense. The Broncos had a lot of success with Vic Fangio here playing that style of defense and kind of limiting Patrick Mahomes a little bit. Last year they held him in the teens for a long time, and it seemed like they were going to finally get that win until a late fumble. I'm interested to see, is this defense just as effective against Patrick Mahomes, and can they close one out this time? Some touchdowns would help too.
Yeah,
touchdowns would help. It does seem like the Broncos defense has held all these teams in check, but this is really going to be the big test this week with the Chiefs coming to town. I'm going to say, like I did last week, something from Russ. So many times when he was in Seattle, he'd make one of those magical plays, one of those magic drives at the end of the game, and the Seahawks would end up winning. That's what Mahomes has done so often here. Let's see if maybe this is the time that Russ can do that and the Broncos can get this monkey off their back with the Chiefs. So I'm going to say maybe some late game magic from Russell Wilson. That's going to be necessary for the Broncos to snap this skid. Okay, that's going to do it for us. For Eric Kalala and Sydney Jones, I am Phil Milani. This has been Ready for Kickoff.